Hey guys, welcome back to Beer Brackets. Today we have such a great interview for you. You're in for a treat. We have Lauren Lerch, Brewing Supervisor from Uinta Brewing down in Utah. And we had such an awesome conversation with her. She is insanely knowledgeable about beer, so fun to talk to. She's also a contributor to a blog, Crafty Beer Girls. I definitely recommend everybody go check it out. And if you haven't looked into Uinta Brewing, if you're down in the US, you can most likely, if you're in surrounding states around Utah, you could probably find some of their stuff if you haven't tried it already.
So, and one of the great things that we found on her great blog, Crafty Beer Girls, we found this great article about off flavors in beer, but not specifically just a generic article. It's an article where she explains how to create DIY kits to learn about off flavor in beer, which is a great thing because those kits, you can find them online, but they're very, very expensive. So we stumbled upon this great article, and she very kindly accepted our invitation to come here on the channel and tell us a little bit about it. So if you're curious about that, definitely stick around and see what she has to tell us about it.
Absolutely. Enjoy the interview, guys. Cheers. As always, our interviews, our reviews, all our videos are best enjoyed by cracking a beer yourself. Open any beer you have close to you anywhere. I'm drinking a Trois Pastel during the interview. Lauren cracked open a Duvel. Alessandra, what were you drinking?
I think I was drinking, I was drinking the New Belgium Triple. See, I almost forgot.
Yes, exactly. Well, enjoy it, guys. Check out Crafty Beer Girls. It's worth taking a look at. Enjoy and cheers.
Cheers.
Well, welcome everybody. So we're here for our second official Beer Brackets interview, and we are not going to disappoint, just like the first. We have a great one lined up for you today. We're here with Lauren Lerch, Brewing Supervisor at Uinta Brewing. Hey, Lauren, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, and also Beer Cicerone, which we do have a lot of questions about. So we're really curious about that. So a lot of fun questions lined up. So to begin with, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and actually what started you off with your love of beer? I know it's a kind of a bit of a general open-ended question, but if there's anything that stands out to you.
Yeah, so I am living in Salt Lake City, Utah. I work as a brewer. My specific title is Brewing Supervisor at Uinta Brewing Company. And I've been there for about 2.5 years. I first got into beer when I was working as a server downtown. Nice. And they really encouraged education, which I thought was pretty cool. I grew up in a family that didn't have anybody that drank alcohol. So once I got into college, I was like, wow, this is this new thing. And of course, people go overboard or don't. And I figured out that this education aspect was kind of the cool way to go about it.
Yeah.
So really started latching onto beer. I had some friends that were like, you should probably keep going with this. And they were like, oh, work at a brewery, go do something like that. And I had a one friend that worked at a brewery in town and said, hey, we do this thing with the Cicerone Certification program. You should check it out. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I look it up. There's this thing called Certified Beer Server. I started studying for it. I was like, I'm going to get all the books. I'm going to take all the notes. And I went crazy. And so I take this online exam and I'm like, that's it? What else? Yeah. There's got to be more. And so they've got another level, and that's Certified Cicerone. So started studying for that, started working at a bottle shop at a brewery called Red Rock. And here I am about 5 or 6 years later. So it's been great.
That's so cool. Sorry, I'm a bad host. We should actually open our beers because, as always with our interviews here, we do like to have a beer with whoever we're interviewing. I completely forgot. So, Lauren, we'll let you start. What are you drinking today?
I'm drinking Duvel or Duval, however you pronounce it. My pronunciation isn't always the most outstanding. This is a fantastic beer. This is one of the beers that kind of started me off with thinking that, wow, there's so much variety to beer. I don't know anything about it. And I still feel I don't, but I'm trying.
Always more. Alessandra, what do you have?
Well, I went with something similar but different, like still in Belgium style, kind of. New Belgium Triple. So this is brewed in Colorado. New Belgium is the name of the brewery, and Triple obviously the name of the specific brew. But the fun thing about this and this brewery in particular is that the owners went for a trip in Belgium, a bike trip in Belgium, and they fell in love with the beer culture over there, came back to the US and started the brewery literally in their garage. And now it's one of the, I would say, biggest like craft breweries in the US. And they have some amazing beers, absolutely amazing. So yeah, tonight I decided to go with the triple.
So we were just talking about this before we started recording. We all kind of went with Belgian influenced beers without realizing it, without coordinating this. But for anybody who's been paying attention to our channel and watching any of our videos, you know that we loved Unibrew's Swappy Still. We did a full review on it. And I managed to, being back home in Montreal this weekend, I managed to get myself a bottle of Swappy Still. I'm very excited for that. In Ontario, I actually have to go buy the Unibrew mix pack. So I have to get the whole case of 12 with everything else, which is fine because you get all the other delicious beers they offer. But if you're in the mood for just one of them, you got to kind of go with all the others. And
well, let's pour them out.
And Lauren, before you joined the call, I was actually telling Alessandra I haven't tried this one since we reviewed it. And before that, it had been a long time. So I'm a bit dying to drink this one again.
Well,
cheers, guys.
Cheers.
And thank you for joining
us.
So good.
Hits the spot.
Yeah. And now that we have opened officially the interview beer brackets,
yes,
we're going. You kind of answered a little bit already the question that I had in mind. I was going to ask you a little bit about what made you get into the Cicerone Certification program and the Cicerone program. But going a little bit more on that line, was there something that happened or a particular event that really said, no, yeah, this is it. Like I want to study, I want to learn about beer. It's not only just about drinking, it's about understanding it and getting a better feel of the history behind it.
Just the thirst for knowledge has been my drive ever since I started. I first started with, I'm trying to find the book here. Tasting Beer by Randy Mosher.
Yes.
This was, I've highlighted it inside and out, and it's been fantastic. It does a great job of giving you enough to keep going without overwhelming you. And so I think in the way that when you're a student in school, in college or high school, if you have a good teacher, that is the most important thing. And that's the thing that's going to make you want more. And so that book was kind of that to me. And at the same time, going through the syllabus and the different things outside of that book that you would learn for the certified beer server, I found very cool. The history of the beer styles, they bring in BJCP style guidelines, and that was really challenging because there's so many styles. But yeah, there's just, it doesn't end. It never ends. And I think maybe for my own personality, if I find something and I latch onto it and I learn as much as I can about it, and then if there's an end point, then it's like, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
But beer never ends. So I'll keep going.
So specifically with the Cicerone certification then, so what's the process been like? You kind of mentioned how you started with the first level and you're like, oh, is that it? And then you moved on to the next. Has it been, do you find it's been a really, really rewarding process? Because Alessandra and I are actually considering doing it ourselves too. So we're kind of really curious. I want to pick your brain about it a little bit. Is it been, I'm assuming it's mostly, especially now, it's all just online. So you get all the resources, all the materials and study on your own time. And then do you register to take an exam or just take it whenever you're ready? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So the first level that you'd start with is certified beer server.
Mm-hmm.
I think the price is a little bit under $70.
Okay.
Geez, it's been a while since I explained it. I think it's like 65 questions that are multiple choice.
Okay.
And it's the kind that they'll certainly try to trip you up.
Nice.
But it's very fair. I think you end up having something like 30 seconds per question to answer, which is more than enough. Yeah, I'd say with your level of knowledge, just having watched a few of your videos and understanding like your passion for beer, I bet you could take it and pass with minimal studying.
Well,
Thank you
see,
so
I'm
much.
the one with all the knowledge. See, I'm the guy that likes to pretend like I know a lot of things, so I'm just kind of along for the ride. One of the reasons why we started the channel is because Alessandra and I would always love to just talk about beer. And I would just ask him a bunch of questions and pick his brain about everything and listen to him talk for minutes and minutes and minutes and minutes about anything I could ask him about.
He's humble. He's humble.
No, I really I'm learning. This whole journey has been, it's a learning process for me, having this channel, and just knowing him has been a learning process with all the information he can share. So we really want to do it. So that's good to know. And
You
multiple
should.
choice exams is stressing out a little bit. So it's good to know it's not too intense.
Not at all. No, it's very accessible. It's made for people mostly in the service industry or that just have an interest in it, that are doing beer blogs or vlogs or videos, whatever, just to give people a base level of knowledge, enough in a few different categories to be able to talk about it in a professional way.
That's so cool.
One thing that I wanted to ask you, one of the reasons also why we decided to invite you here on the channel is because we found this fantastic article that you wrote about do it yourself, like off flavor kit for beer. But before we get into that, can you explain a little bit what off flavors are? Just since you're Cicerone Certified, like we would love to hear what that means actually.
Off flavors are flavors and aromas that shouldn't be in whatever beer that you're drinking. Some are completely acceptable in certain styles and not in others. For example, we could talk about clove character. Since we're drinking Belgian beer, there's like a clove phenol character in a lot of beer that's got made with Belgian yeast, and that's completely appropriate for beer made with Belgian yeast. It's completely not appropriate for something like a German style Pilsner. So in that case, it would be considered an off flavor. Some are created by invasive bacteria. Others are created by mishandling of some sort. Something like oxidation shouldn't be in almost any beer unless it's something that's aged and it comes off in a pleasant way. But in general, it just means something that shouldn't be there.
So can you tell us a little bit about the idea behind the budget off flavor kit?
Yeah, it was driven by off flavor kits being extremely expensive.
Are they really?
Yeah, they are. They're crazy.
How much, how expensive could they be?
Oh,
I just learned what off flavors are today, so I'm completely in the dark on this.
yeah, no worries. So usually they're associated with a company like the Cicerone Certification program. That they're trying to encourage you to take an exam, and then they associate some sort of off flavor kit with it. So for the Cicerone Certification program, they use a company called Aroxa, and you get these little off flavor kits, and they're these little pill tablet things that you open up and pop in your beer, swirl it around, and it's supposed to emulate that aroma or flavor.
So cool.
But that kit, without looking it up, I think it's at least $120.
Wow.
More or less. And that's one of the cheaper ones. And that comes with, I believe, 6 different spikes. So as like a young beer student, I'm like, ooh, $15 for a beer book. Oh, okay. Breaking the budget. And then I saw those, off flavor kits, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to have to make some friends that want to learn too.
Yeah.
So that's what I realized. It was actually after I took the exam that I figured I should try to do something that would be more budget related. But people would ask me, what does DMS smell or taste like? What about diacetyl? What's acetaldehyde? And without having a specific example in the wild, so to speak, of a beer that I find that smells or tastes like those, it's really hard to bring people into that experience.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that I developed the blog post that I wrote about DIY off flavors was kind of brought into existence by finding a few different suggestions for something similar on the BJCP website. On their old school website, I think they've kind of got 2 versions going on right now. On their old school one, they had a list of different off flavors and aromas, and ways that you might be able to emulate that with simple household products. Maybe you've got some imitation butter flavoring if you're making cookies or something in your cabinet. So kind of just like work with what you got. It's not going to be exactly what you might experience in beer, but it's going to be a lot closer than not having anything. So that was the idea behind it. I kind of reiterate a lot that, like, if you are going to take the certified Cicerone exam or a tasting exam where you're supposed to use a specific off-flavor kit, you need to use that off-flavor kit. This cannot substitute that. But if you're on a homebrew level or just like an early learning level for off-flavors, this is a great entryway.
Well, that's a great idea, because I mean, the basic concept here is that, like you said, the regular kit is $120. Here you're making a budget, so you have way more to spend on beer, which I love.
Oh yeah.
So no, yeah, that's excellent. And actually, like, the reason why we love that article is because we were researching. We wanted to introduce off flavors in the channel and find a way, to make it easy for me and for Joe to kind of replicate. And that idea there was just perfect. So we thought, well, let's see if we can get some insights. So it's a pleasure having you here today. And in that with that idea in mind, we wanted also to ask you, is there something that you would recommend that we do or don't do? Is there a specific beer that you would use as a base that you found that worked well with that flavor kit? What are your suggestions?
Yeah, absolutely. Use a beer that is as neutral as possible. And while you might think that would be something like, I don't know, Coors Light, it actually has, taste the beer by itself first and really think about what you're tasting and experiencing. And you'll find, maybe that beer actually has a little bit of banana character, which personally I think it does. Something like Coors Banquet, just as much. So when you're selecting a neutral flavored beer, try to go with something like perhaps an American wheat that's low ABV, that's not intense in any one way or another. Sometimes you can get away with your like American light lagers, but you just have to make sure that the lager fermentation character isn't leaning toward one of your off flavors or even just a bigger flavor in general. Otherwise, you could get confused about how that impression of that thing is. For example, when I started studying for the Cicerone Certification program, I literally took the list of styles that you have to learn, and I started at the top, and each week I'd take one or two styles and just go crazy. I'd look up everything I could about them. I'd go to the liquor store, buy all the bottles that they have. It wasn't until I was a few styles in that I was like, man, all these kind of have like a similar character. I wonder what that's about. Sure enough, it's oxidation. Utah, unfortunately, doesn't have refrigerated storage in their liquor stores, which is a control state. So it also gets very hot here. So you've got warm beer on a shelf for who knows how long, and then it's oxidized. So it was unfortunate because I was like trying to figure out like, this is what a Pilsner is supposed to taste like from Germany, and it's all oxidized. So just didn't give me the best representation. So choosing the correct beer is really important. And I forget the other half of the question that you said.
The other half was just like, if you had, you pretty much covered it, because I was asking if you had a recommendation on what to do and what not to do while you're doing the different, representing the different off flavors. But if you have anything to add, please.
Yeah, experimentation is really important. If you spike a beer and you're like, well, this is what this DIY blog says, or this is what this website says. If you spike the beer and you don't taste anything, it's one of two things. Either you didn't put enough in, or you could have an anosmia to that character. So you can be blind to certain flavors and aromas. Everybody has specific things that they just can't pick up. That oftentimes they don't realize until other people point it out. They're like, oh, doesn't this just smell awful? And you're like, I think it's okay. So yeah, just experiment a little. Maybe have the neutral beer in 3 different glasses and pour an increasing amount in each one, just to see if you can pick it up in the lower amount versus the higher amount and just kind of feel it out. I know that when you're first learning how to perceive these things with a kit, what they'll often suggest is that you go like the maximum ppm or the maximum amount where it's just like punching you in the face, and then slowly dial that back, and then you can kind of figure out where your threshold is even after that.
Thank you for the advice. That's awesome.
I love that term, spiking a beer. It sounds like so much fun. And I'm really happy that I'm learning so much in this interview, but I'm also really excited to try and experiment with this a little later with Alessandro. That's so cool. Just so I can spike a beer. So for anybody, again, you're the brewing supervisor, or is that the official term for at Uinta that you have? So brewing and fermentation supervisor?
Yeah, brewing supervisor.
For anybody who doesn't know about Uinta, what would you tell them about what you guys do and the types of beers that you produce? Is there a specific style that you guys are known for? Is there anything new that you've been experimenting with lately that you're excited about? So for let's say anybody who's a complete noob to Uinta, how would you describe it?
Yeah, Uinta's been around for 25 years. I feel bad for not knowing that right now, but my concept of time in the past year has been flux.
You can use that trick of adding 25-ish, and then it's right.
Yeah,
exactly.
And then it's accurate. We produce American style beers. Not so much the Belgian styles, but we've got a small batch series where we start to get into the more hazy, crazy stuff.
Nice.
We also have a 1-barrel system, which is like our pilot system. For those of you that don't know, brewer's barrel is 31 gallons. So that's our small system that we use for just testing stuff out. And then those get put on in the pub and they kind of come and go within a week. But our other system is a 120-barrel BrauCon system. So we are a production brewery. Most of what we put out is going into some sort of packaging and going on a shelf or a bar somewhere. Of course, keg sales aren't quite what they used to be, being a global pandemic, but they are starting to pick back up and everybody's really hopeful. My personal favorite is our lagers. I'm a lager lover, Pilsner all the way. I like the other stuff too. We do a lot of beer with flavoring, which, if that's your thing, then it's great. But yeah, my personal favorite is 801, which is the area code here. So our 801 Pilsner is a German style Pilsner, and that's my love. That's my deal.
That's awesome. I was looking on your website. I saw that you also have a black lager, right? Like it's called Baba. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, Baba Black Lager. It's got a little sheep on the front. Yeah,
that sounds absolutely delicious. Like it, looking through the character, like is that year round, or is that like a special release?
Yeah, it's actually come and gone. I was about to say it's year round, and I'm like, when's the last time we brewed that? Being a larger brewery, our production timeline and the people that actually produce it, there's a breakdown every now and then. But yes, I believe it's year round. It's a Schwarz beer. It's a German style lager. Something that I learned earlier on about Schwarz beer is that it's also known as Black Pilsner, which I really like the idea of that being that, like, yes, it's a darker beer, but it's not heavy like stouts can be. It's not aggressive like porters can be. It's easy drinking, and it's just got a little bit more of a dark character to it.
Nice. I see that you guys make a cream ale too as well. Alessandro and I are actually really, really fascinated by cream ales because I introduced them to cream ales. There's a brewery out of Montreal called Saint Ambroise. They export. I think they have an apricot, that they export, and for oatmeal stout, they export throughout the U.S. So normally you can find those two pretty easily. But up here in Quebec or in Canada, they have a whole other wide range of beers you can find. And we went over to their brewery in Montreal, and they have their cream ale on tap. And it has that extra sort of infused with nitrogen characteristic to it. So it's extra thick and creamy and really, really, really delicious. You get a picture of that on tap on a hot summer day sitting outside, and it's absolutely amazing. And so we've been kind of fascinated by cream ales after that because they're not as common or easy to find. But I'm really interested to see that you guys have that. And is that new or a limited run from what I saw?
Yeah, that was limited. That was
Okay.
that was part of our small batch series. That was the second one we did,
Nice.
called Turn Farm.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was a good beer.
Yeah.
Every now and then we make one. I'm like, can we just please make this all the time? Can we please? Yeah, I hope that one comes back around at some point.
So speaking again, like about your brewing experience or beer experience in general, do you have a fun, special story, a special project you worked on that you could share with us? Something that really like been sticking with you and that you always think about?
Yeah. So I'm part of the Pink Boots Society, which I'm not sure if you've heard before.
Yes.
You're nodding yes. Yeah. So it is a society for women in the fermentation beverage industry. It used to be beer exclusive, and I think in the past year or so, it has opened up to anybody that makes a fermented beverage, kombucha, wine, distilling, what have you. So recently, I was named the local chapter head or chapter leader. So that's been what I spent a lot of my time thinking about lately, trying to figure out how to get more members, how to get people educated, get people interested. Right now, it's a lot about just having some sort of social aspect in your life. We do happy hours every Friday. And oftentimes it's just, being the life that we've got right now, it's difficult to see people and have that social interaction that you normally would. And you don't realize it until you're just like kind of pent up with this lack of social experience. And then all of a sudden you see these people and their faces and you're drinking beer on the internet, and it makes it a little better. It's not quite the same, but currently that's like our best purpose for the group right now.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. So it's very education focused. We have a national group, so it's not just individual local state chapters. But they offer scholarships, and that's a huge part of the Pink Boots Society as well.
Well, congratulations for that. Like, that's great. Like, let's cheers to that.
Cheers.
I'll get some information on that for you after, and I'll post a link in the description of the video if anybody's curious to learn a bit more about that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
You can check it out. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I got to ask you, and you're probably a little biased towards Uinta beers, but if you had, let's go outside of the world of Uinta for now. If you had to choose a favorite beer, which might be, it's always hard when there's something you're really passionate about. Choosing one favorite might be tough, or maybe you have one favorite just now, something that you're really into lately that you've been drinking a lot of. If there was one that you had to pick today, what would it be?
So there's a story behind it. I would pick TF Keller beer. TF is Templin Family Brewing here in Salt Lake City, Utah. My former boss is one of the owners, and he was like my first beer boss. His name is Kevin Templin. He used to work at Red Rock Brewing Company, which is where I kind of cut my teeth on brewing process. And so while I was working there at JBF, we won the Kellerbeard Zwickelbeer style category. So we got gold for Zwickelbeer. And I happened to be there that year, and we went up on stage and received it. And I'm like, my hangover's melting. I feel so much better now. This is the best day of my life. So I have like a personal connection to that beer. So I guess it's more of a top up. Red Rock Zwickelbeer, TF Keller beer. They're very similar. But that would be my choice.
That's a good choice.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, now changing a little bit subject here. I don't know if you've had a chance to look a little bit on our channel and understand like the beer bracket concept. And if you haven't, like it's pretty simple. Like you open the beer brackets, having a beer, and then you have another beer to close the beer brackets, and you can enclose any kind of event situation or whatever you like. What are your thoughts on that? Do you have any opinion?
I think it's great. I mean, I love starting things with beer and ending things with beer.
Exactly.
So
it's all
I can't think of a better way to make a beautiful sandwich.
I know, right? Exactly. It's a beer sandwich.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. You need to incorporate that somehow, Sandra. We got to work on that.
Yeah.
I don't think beer sandwich would work out as well.
It's a de-evolution there, like, but the concept is there.
Yeah. I love it.
We're also very like tradition focused people, and we love something that has like a ceremonial aspect to it. So the whole beer bracket concept fits into that a lot. Just, making a big deal of opening the brackets,
Yes.
and then making a point of closing it.
Yes.
Here.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So actually, you're from the East Coast originally, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is there a beer that you were able to get on the East Coast that you can't now that you really miss?
Yes, and it's only for nostalgia. And anybody who's lived on the East Coast or in the Northeast might guess it's Yingling. Yeah. That was it. You go into a bar, pub in New Jersey or Pennsylvania. You say, "I'll have a lager." They give you Yingling. That's what happens.
Man.
So near and dear to my heart.
So see, fun thing, Yingling, and I'm sure you probably know this. I currently live in Florida, in Tampa, and they have a brewery just outside of Tampa. There's 2 brew houses up in Pennsylvania and 1 here in Tampa. So Yingling is everywhere here.
See, I never tried it. You can't get it in Canada, so I never even heard of it. And then I went to go visit Alessandro in Tampa like a year ago, 2 years ago, probably 2 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's everywhere down there, right? And I couldn't believe it. It's really good. Damn, Yingling's a good beer.
And they also came out with a Pilsner now. So since you liked it, I don't know if you had a chance to try it, but that's also another one that could be fun if maybe to review for us on the channel.
Yeah. I actually haven't been back east for, 3 years. It's been too long. It was one of those things I was about to go in like spring of 2020 and didn't happen yet, but soon enough, I hope. But yeah, I miss Yingling, and I'm happy to see that they're still kicking and making beers. I don't know if they still do the brewery tour of their original facility, but that was by far one of the coolest tours I've been on. They like take you down in the cellar and they're like, "Oh yeah, here's the brick wall that's still kind of there. Like this is what they like bricked up during the Prohibition, and we think that maybe over here they still use this passage." It was just very cool.
So cool.
Very, very old original stuff.
I'm a sucker for those kinds of tours. I love brewery tours.
That's always fun. Yeah, they do have a little brewery tour of the facility down here, but that obviously has nothing to do with the one up in Pennsylvania. That's I'm sure that's much better. But still, like, at least I'm happy that we can access it here. It's a pretty good beer. I really like it.
Did you guys hear that? Oh, what is it called? It's not a partnership, but at the Miller Course facility in Colorado, they have I think it's called a joint venture that's going to start up with Yingling, where like they're not contract brewing for Yingling, but like people from Yingling are actually going into their facility and they're going to start brewing beer there. I think it's like a planned thing. It's not happening yet, but they are expanding.
There's this talk in the industry about having Yingling over across the Mississippi, but it's a rumor. Nobody knows if it's going to happen or not.
Well, Lauren, thank you so much for joining us. This was such a pleasure to be able to sit down with you and talk to you a little bit and crack a beer with you, of course.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me. This is so fun.
Well, we'd love to have you back again. Maybe one time when we get to try out our own little experimentation, we'll bring you back after to see how we did.
Yeah.
Feedback.
You can tell us, no, that was not good. Like, do it again.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me know if you find something that works out better. The blog post that I made is kind of open-ended, especially with the acetaldehyde spike, the one that's apple. I never really found a good DIY spike for that. So if you guys find something else, if you just like, I don't know, mash up some Granny Smiths or something and strain your beer through that. I don't really know. I didn't try too many different things, but I think that was the one that I wasn't really able to get close to.
Lauren, thank you again. And hopefully we'll have you back sometime again soon. We would love to. This was really, really great. It was really nice meeting you and talking.
That sounds great. Thank you guys so much for having me. It's so nice to meet you.
Cheers.
Cheers.